So, hello, welcome to CIembassy.com. I'm Niall Sebastian Sieger. Today I'm gonna communicate with a creator who have lived as a man before and who's well known in the public because he did some work which we can call freedom's fight, if you want it like that, or a fight against racism, a fight against racism against black people. And the creator can use wind and can use a higher wind level to show himself, and he can trigger wind to specific plants, like to the plant behind me, to show himself clearly to the community which is watching the video later. So he can show himself clearly to you, the people which are watching the video, by canalizing wind to the plant behind me. And I'm going to speak to him, and I'm going to use the name he was known with in public so that you can identify the creator. It's the creator, the individual creator who have lived as the man before, who are going to speak to. And I'm going to talk to Malcom X. Are you here? Then please trigger the wind one time clearly and make a lot of wind for the people which are watching the video. That would be great. And now you can see that he also produces more wind. That's why the leaves of this plant start to shake more. Yeah, use a higher wind level, that's good. And he can, when I speak to him, he can agree in the same way by triggering the wind like he did right now, so that the plant gets more movement and the leaf stem starts to shake. Okay? And in that way, he can also reply to questions. For example, if you want to agree on something, he can use a higher wind level, or he can, with the wind, trigger the wind to the plant in a way that the plant starts to move like this, the leaves and the plant itself. Okay? And in that way, he can say, yes, like I'm doing it with my human head at the moment, for example. But he also can say yes to things if I just trigger the wind if he just triggered the wind to a higher wind level point. Okay? So, can you identify yourself one more time now? The plant was a little bit more quiet. So can you use a higher wind level one more time to agree that I'm communicating with the creator who was known as Malcom X to the public, and to the creator which have done the work as I described it before. And for the people, please watch the plant closely. He will trigger the wind level now, and you can see now more movement. So that's the creator who have lived as the man Malcom X, and that's his identification for you, the people which are watching the video. And besides this identification I have from him, I did communicate with other creators which have lived as human beings before, which also checked his identification before I started the video. Okay? So it's a little bit complex, but I have like a backup system to identify creators if I communicate with them, which I use sometimes. To Malcom, because we are in public here, some people can walk by, you don't have to worry about that. You always can show yourself clearly and you can reply clearly to questions, because there are some informations laying around that here is a live event which is showing universal communication with creators which have lived as human beings before. So it is, in a way, ancestors communication, even if this creature, as far as I know, do not belong to my direct family. And if I say as far as I know, it's because I know that creatures which have lived as human beings before can be reborn in another human body in a second or third life, if you want it like that. So it is possible that you meet creatures which have lived as human beings before, which have lived in a black body, for example, of a black man, and also in a body of a white man. Malcom X, can you agree to that by triggering the wind one time, that would be possible? If yes, please trigger the wind clearly to send your answer to the people which are watching the video, because I think it is a very interesting and important question. Can you agree to that? Then please trigger the wind one time clearly. You see there were some boats in the background. Don't worry about that. If the people have questions, they can communicate with me and I'm going to reply. Can you agree to what I just said, that it is possible that people could meet creators which have lived as human beings before in a white human body, but also later in another life in a black human body? then please trigger the wind clearly to make that point clear. So now the people can see that this plant reaches more wind, and that's Malcom X. He's agreeing to the question I just asked him. Okay, he's agreeing to that fact. And that's very important for people to understand if they have a racism problem, because there's no need for racism. If you as living humans which are watching the video material could get born in one life in the body of a white man and in the next life in the body of a black man. Do you understand? Because racism is senseless then. Do you agree on that? You trigger the wind one time clearly for that point. Like, it would be great if you could shake the top a little bit, like if you could move it a little bit. Yes, that's good. For the people, if you watch it closely, you can see he's trying to agree to that now by moving the plant in this direction. See? Okay, that's very specific, thank you. And always try to be clear as possible. Do not mind about the humans which are around us. If they come by this little boat or if they walk by, if they have questions they can ask me, I will reply to these. I did talk to Malcom X a little bit before I started the video about his life, because he was a popular figure in the media fighting against racism, which is against black people. So he was fighting for black rights, for the rights of black people. And he told me that he in lifetime was so stressed in between of his life that he also had a period in his life where he was against all whites for a moment in his lifetime, which is also racism then, right? So, but I told him, I think that's human. If you get a lot of bad contacts only with white people, and if you don't have a lifetime period where you get a mix with good and bad contacts, then it's psychological normal that people easily come into the situation if they're stressed out and so on, that they mix all together, all white people, for example, and judge all white people together. So we had a little talk before we started the video. Can you agree on that? In general, that we had a little small talk before I started that video, that the people can understand that better? Yes or no? Yes. He's saying yes by body sharing input. I'm going to explain that in a moment. Then please trigger the wind a little bit for the yes, and then I will explain the body sharing part. And trigger the wind if both is correct, that we have body sharing contact at the moment, as I would describe it, so you can send inputs to my human body to communicate with me. He's agreeing to that, and he's agreeing to the fact that we had a small talk before, that you can understand it. Please trigger the wind clearly so that the people can see it more clear, because this is a cell phone camera. It's better if you use a higher wind level so that the plant moves a little bit more. It's easier for the people to understand the universal communication. Okay? Yes? Yes? If you watch closely, he's answering only over this little piece of the plant at the moment. And now you will use a higher wind level, please, to make that clear to the public. So for the public which are watching the video, now he's using the higher wind level for you to agree on that. Okay, and that's why you could see them more movement in the top of the plant. What you have to understand is my eyes are used to universal communication, are used to communicate with creatures which have lived as human beings before. If they trigger wind to specific plants. And because I'm used to universal communication, I can communicate with Malcom X, for example, where he's just using just one leaf of the whole plant to reply to me. He's agreeing to that. But of course, if you are not used to universal communication, where creatures which have lived as human beings before do canalize wind to show themselves, we need to go towards you. We have to produce video material a little bit different, because you always have to use them a higher wind level so that the plant is shaking in a way that you can see it, and in a way that the cameras can capture it, because I'm filming with a cell phone camera. That's also for Malcom X a technical detail. It's a technical detail. This cell phone camera have a program like all cell phones do have, And if something is shaking just a little bit, the program will try to avoid the shaking. And that's going against what we are doing here, because then the camera will not capture little movements of that thing. So that's why you always have to use a high wind level like you are doing it right now. He's agreeing now to the fact that he understood what I told him, because I spoke out my opinion about the cell phone camera with what I'm filming. So he's giving me the feedback with the wind wave that he understood what I said, and that he will try to use a better wind level for the people which are watching the video. That's the way I got it. That was right? Yeah? Okay. For the people, I can look at the specific leaf, for example, and he can reply to me over a specific leaf. But for you, of course, a higher wind level is necessary. So I'm gonna do easy talk with Malcom X right now. Malcom, I was surprised when I watched American media, because they still have so much problems with racism and black against white people. You agree to that, right? It's even today it is a huge problem, and I did produce in the past a video with a creator who have lived as a black man as well, and he got killed by police officers. It was, if I remember right, and he wanted to reach his family members as well, and that was a big case, because then there were big demonstrations in the United States going on from the people which are against racism. And there's this Black Lives Matter movement at the moment going on in the United States, where black people do protest that black lives should be valued as white lives, if you want it like that, as the lives of white people. I'm a human, I'm grown up with a philosophy that all humans are so important that it doesn't make sense to put any value on any human, because humans are too important. Life is too important to put value on that. But that's my own philosophy, okay? From me, Niall, that you do not lose yourself there. My opinion is, I thought a lot about that stuff in the United States, and like that a lot of black people do move in city parts which are outside of the city. That was planned by white people. I know that, and even a long time ago. So where the ghettos then later were the result of that. In Germany we call it Ghettoisierung. That's if people which are organizing cities and planning them, if they plan to put a special group like black people or Latinos or white people into a certain area. And so I was watching that topic, if you want it like that, for a long time in my life, also because I do know a lot of black Americans. And when I was young, I was grown up with a lot of people from the American embassy in Bonn, and whites and blacks, and the black people always told me about the problems they have in the United States. And I was very surprised as when I was young about that, because the United States had the marketing effect on the whole planet Earth and other countries, that they would had overcome racism, but it's not the case. It is a lie, because they have such big problems. That's how I look at it. You agree a little bit to that, right? Yeah. We have also problems in Germany, but in Germany it's not so much that black groups, we have a lot of black people living in Germany, that's black groups becoming a big problem, but we have problems that some groups do not match with other groups in general, that they not can live very well together because of religious reasons, stuff like that, and that is very sad in general. And on the other side, I think as a human it is important to respect and to protect the cultures of the people wherever they're from, right? And if that's my own opinion. If it's just organized from a little group of people, that they organize plans and use psychological methods, that them, as a result, people just mix up wild. That often goes wrong. So sorry, that's an attack from Whitney. another creature which have lived as a human before a woman. Malcolm, can you agree? Was that Whitney? Was that Whitney? Yes or no? Yes? And trigger the wind one time for that. Yeah, okay, now you can see he's pushing it down and he's agreeing to the fact that that was Whitney. Whitney is another creature. She have lived as a human before as a woman. And she sometimes try to attack me with animals because they can influence human bodies or animal bodies or plant bodies, creatures which have lived as human beings before. And she sometimes attack me with bees because I had a beautiful memory about bees and she's trying to destroy that with her attacks. So that's why she's attacking me, Niall Sebastian Power Sieger, but that do have nothing to do with my communication with Malcom X, except the fact that she's also destroying a good video with that stuff. He's agreeing to that. So I'm sorry that Whitney did try to attack your video material and my video material in the end. But she's often doing that. She's often doing that. It's very sad. Yeah. So that people can understand that if I practice universal communication with creatures which have lived as human beings before, it can happen that other individual creatures which have lived as human beings before do try to destroy my efforts to communicate with individual creatures like Malcom X. For example, by that what you just have seen, and the attack with the bee towards me you can see in a lot of video material which is online already. You will find it in minimum 5 videos, I think, if you search for that. I just deleted today because I have no storage on my PC a lot of videos. I had to delete some because I have not very well equipment, and because of that I deleted also some attack videos because I need the storage. I'm not a rich man, so I cannot afford good equipment, and that's why I produce a lot of videos with creatures which have lived as human beings before, but a lot of stuff will not come on the Facebook page or on the website because of equipment problems, because I cannot afford better equipment. That's a sad fact in my life, because I'm a poor man, dear Mark. In the United States, you had a long time the problem that black people could not earn so much money as white people, right? Yeah, I'm a white guy in a country from white people, so from the Germans. That here I am in Germany, but it's mixed. So a lot of people from other cultural backgrounds live here too, and that's all cool. But I'm a white guy in Germany, a country which was originally built up by white people, and I'm not allowed to work because I was against the government and some political issues. So that's why I'm broke, just by the way. Yeah, maybe you had the same lifetime experience as a black man in the United States? Yes or no? Like they did try to forbid you to work? Stuff like that? If that's correct, then please try to reply with a clear wind wave one more time. Yes? I didn't know that. I can imagine that easily, because governments always try like that to cut humans which are trying to spread information to the public about topics they don't like, to cut them from financial resources, to keep them quiet. And as I just told the people, I cannot afford good equipment, so the government can work with that as long as civil societies do not realize that simple fact and do not support people in different fields and topics which are trying to inform the public. So it's a general problem, and that makes it very easy for governments to cut people from the financial resources they would need to inform about several different topics. It can be about natural environment, can be about ancestors communication, or it can be a topic like against racism. So it's not depending on the topic. If you look at the United States today, do you think they're on a good way so that black and white people are able to live more peacefully together in the future? So do you think they're on a good way? A very little yes, and a bigger yes you would maybe send when I do ask you, you think there's even today a long way they have to walk with each other to then be able to live in peace together, like without that so often demonstrations, that without that it's necessary that Black Lives Matters demonstrations take place and stuff like that? Do you think there's even today a lot of work for people which are trying um, to go against racism in the United States? Let me say it like that. Yes. Okay, for the people, please watch always like that part of the tree, because that's how he replies at the moment. Okay, that's how we communicate at the moment. Yeah, I think it's a worldwide problem. Like everywhere on planet Earth, we do have racism problems. And the other problem is if just everybody travel around and mix up with everybody, then all the cultures will be destroyed. There was a musician, he will be happy if he sees the video that I talk about him with Malcolm X, maybe. Will, from the Black Eyed Peas. And he do worry about the existence of the Zulu as a tribe. And I can understand that perspective as well. For example, if now all the white people, Chinese and everybody go to Zululand, the Zulu will not exist in 200 years anymore. You understand that too, right? Is that also in one way your position regarding the black tribes in Africa? That you think it's necessary to protect original tribes also with their culture? Yeah? Okay. So multicultural stuff is difficult to find a good solution. That's what I think about it. It's a very difficult topic. It's a very heated up topic. So a lot of problems are there, and a lot of people have a lot of emotional ties regarding that topic. So a lot of an emotional bond to the topic of multiculti stuff and regarding if they want to live in a mixed up society or not. In Germany, it's becoming more and more multiculti, as we call it. And you see also more and more Germans which communicate that they feel uncomfortable if they lose their own space in their own country, where they can live out their own culture without getting disturbed in doing that, in practicing that. And I think that's also a perspective which have to be recognized, like the other perspective as well. So that's why I think the topic is so difficult, because you have no easy solution for the fact that a lot of people like to travel to other countries, like to travel into the territory of other cultures, but that can lead to the result as well that the cultures then will get destroyed after a few hundred years. So I think it's a very complex topic in general. And I'm talking about cultures there, not specific about races in the last sentence, for the people that they do understand that, right? Do you think that's the truth, the simple truth, that it is such a difficult topic? Because there's no easy solution for these problems, actually. You think you would have a solution for that? Yes or no? Make it clear. A little yes. A little yes? Okay, make that clear. A little yes. Okay, he's producing more wind that you can see it now, but it was a little yes. Uh-huh. It's very difficult. See, if you agree to what Will said, that he is worrying about the Zulu tribe, and that he do not want, for example, and I understood it that way. Okay, that if we would say, okay, Zululand tomorrow is multicultural, then the Zulus will die. After 200-300 years, maybe they will not exist as a culture, as a tribe anymore. Also, both. So I think it's difficult. It's very difficult, especially in the modern world where people do travel so fast, so much, and they do not care about the others as much as they sometimes should. I think that's also a problem. It's also a problem. You agree on that, right? I just thought about my own brother, Colm is his name. Um, he's quite ideological in the left corner. He, for example, travels to Sweden and then do commercial work regarding their elections. So he tried to communicate with Swedish people in Sweden, but he's not Swedish, what they should vote for, and then he's leaving the country again. But he not gonna live there. If they have problems because they voted wrong, it's not gonna be his problem. He's gonna have left then. So I think that we have problems on planet Earth regarding that people do travel so fast into so many different cultures, and it's a big problem if people want to live together from different tribes and different cultures peacefully, to find good solutions, which are solutions respecting the other tribes and cultures, no matter where on planet Earth. So the United States, I think, is a fail also because it's not a free history. Let me say it like that, because the black people, the beginning was that a lot of black people, well, first of all, a lot of people do know that the United States, the land, not the states, the land original belongs to the Indios, to the American Indios. So the whites conquered that country as the black people which do live there. That's the way I look at it. So, because both are going against the original tribes which did live there original in the United States, but on the land which we call America today. These are the American Indios. And the most black people are not original from the United States, and the most white people are not from the United States as well. Only if you find a too white Indio, so for example a Cherokee, he would be an original. So the United States have a history where tribes got killed, tortured, and brutally murdered to steal their land, actually. And it's so I look at that with the eye where I look also at that part of the history. And Europeans did conquer the United States like in the past, and they brought a lot of the slaves, which then later became the black Americans as well, to the United States to abuse them. So of course it is a difficult history. It is. When I do watch documentations, for example, from black people in their black community in the United States, and if they talk about whites, I can see that their old wounds regarding slavery are very deep sometimes. Some of them have very deep wounds. So deep old wounds because of the topic and because of the history of the United States. That's what I realize when I do watch documentations from the United States, which are produced by black people, for example, regarding the topic of slavery or regarding the topic of the United States today even. So this old thing is still active in their mind and in the mind of some white people as well, and that's a big problem, I think. You agree to that, right? Yeah. It's a big topic. It's a very big topic, and it would be possible to discuss hours and hours only about a topic like that. But I think I wait until the wind is quiet again. But you did agree to that. I understood that. For the people, he did agree to that. That's why he used a higher wind level. I want to ask some further questions. If you think that universal knowledge regarding how we exist as creatures, which also can live as humans or as animals, maybe I'm gonna ask you later some more questions, or maybe we do another video, how you think this knowledge, which just a few humans have in the way that they really understand it because they have a lifetime experience, how you think how much could change that kind of situation? Because I think it could change a lot the situation regarding problems with racism and regarding the reasons why people think they have to be racist. And in some cases, the reasons are totally wrong and they have no base if you have the universal knowledge. And that's why maybe we can do later some more videos, if you agree to that. Yeah? Was that a yeah? Yes? Okay, great. So then you can, even in your afterlife, you even can inform people them against racism. So you can keep on working if you want it like that. Okay. I think, see, Malcolm, I'm grown up with a lot of people from embassies here in Bonn because it was like an embassy city. And I'm grown up, for example, one of my neighbors' houses, there was the embassy of South Africa, but they had two different buildings. It was a yellow house in Bonn Boyle, and only the blacks lived there at that time. I was very small, I was so small, and it was the time of apartheid. So apartheid was still going on at that moment in time when I was grown up with this little black fella as a little white boy. And my mom, well, she's very anti-racist, okay, from her mindset. So I'm grown up very, very international, very early in life. And the other thing, I'm as a human, I always try to understand others and other individuals. And because I have that inside myself, I have heard a lot, maybe more than people which are not so interested in other individuals. And I want to tell you about that yellow house. It was the embassy of South Africa. There were like 50, 60, maybe 70 people or maybe more living in this house. There were, I can remember there were 30, 40 kids alone in one room at that time in Boyle. Like small black kids. They had only rice and onions to eat, and they were living under absolutely poor living conditions. Poor for in relation to what Germany do provide from housing and stuff like that. And there was another building for the white members of the embassy, and they did live quite well. That's what I think. I've not seen the building for the white members of the embassy of South Africa. I have to be very specific there. But I don't think that they have lived like the other people had to live like. So some people are traveling by, producing some music here. So do not wonder about that. You want to dance with the wind a little bit? So we do that. You can even do this here. I wait a moment until they travel by so that we can keep on going. These are the people which are going in the boat. What you see behind the plant now, they produce the music. Clap, clap. He also dances. I got attacked by a bee before. If you could see the jumper, I turned that for a moment. If you could see the t-shirt, it's like a bee t-shirt. A yellow t-shirt, and on the back here, black and yellow stripes. Could you see that? There's a bee on planet Earth. Maybe you have heard about that. A woman who's called Bee. Maybe she will realize what I was talking about. Have you heard about the project where I did try to inform people about universal communication in the past? A little bit only. A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Okay, yeah. It was a project where I was explaining the mirror cabinet and the communication way we can use. So me and creatures which have lived as human beings before, if we communicate over the mirror cabinet. But this is not communication over the mirror cabinet. I want people not to get lost there. Can you agree on that? He's agreeing on that by triggering the wind. Okay, because that's another communication method. And I'm communicating with Malcolm X now. He's using the method by showing himself by triggering wind. Not by sending drops, as people would understand it, if, for example, he would use other human bodies or animal bodies, like Whitney have done that with the bee, for example, to send me signals which I then cannot read. That's also a communication method I can use as a living human when I communicate with creatures which have lived as human beings before. But for people which are watching the video, that you not get lost, it's very important to separate all the communication methods. And regarding the t-shirt I just said, and what I showed you, that was my idea from me, Niall Sebastian Power-Sieger, not from anybody else, and it was not a drop as far as I know. It's just a man who had a t-shirt on with black and yellow stripes on. That's all. So do not lose yourself there. I do communicate with Malcom X here, not through the mirror system as I did describe it on one of my old Facebook accounts, or as it was shown to the public on the old Facebook account. We do communicate easy here in Bonn, and he's using and triggering winds to communicate. He's agreeing to that by that high wind level, so that people can understand that, because that's very important. Because I had a project in the past where I tried to show several different methods creatures which have lived as human beings before can use to communicate with living humans, and then the people which were watching the Facebook timeline and which received informations lost themselves by mixing everything up, instead of separating all the different communication methods and ways I can use with creatures which have lived as human beings before, so ancestors. But that's very important, to not lose yourself. So, do you have living family on planet Earth? Yes. You produce a lot of wind now for that, right? Yes, okay. Would you like to speak to them if possible? Yes or no? Like, I mean, not by video, I mean in a way that they can understand the communication, in a way that they can ask you questions. Yes. Okay, for the people that you understand that. So for the people which did know the human man who was known in the public as Malcom X, you have a few ways to communicate with him where I can maybe help you. One way is to send your questions to CIEmbassy.com, but you also can contact me over CIEmbassy.com, and then you could come to Bonn if you can afford it, and then you could meet Malcom X here in Bonn if he's willing to show himself again. That's what I'm gonna ask him now. Would you be willing to come back again here to the Rheinauer, for example, if your family and friends would travel to Bonn to communicate with you? Would you try that then if possible? And he's saying yes, he will try that. And that's why he's triggering the wind so clearly. So for the family and friends, do also please not lose yourself in universal communication or in any universal theories. The information you have is, I do communicate with Malcom X here. He identified himself as the human man who have lived as Malcom X. And he would like to speak with you here in Bonn, if possible. If you cannot afford to come to Bonn, you also can send questions to CIEmbassy.com, and I can try to communicate them with him. And then we can solve that questions. But what Malcom communicated here, and he's making that clear by the wind wave, is that he would like, if possible, that his family and friends come to Bonn, and then I could explain you the communication system for, let's say, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You could optimize your own knowledge, your own communication method with him, and afterwards I could leave you alone and walk away, like a kilometer away or something, and then you would be able to communicate directly with him, also a little bit more private. I wouldn't be here, I would then be a kilometer away, and in case you have problems to communicate with him, you can call me on my cell phone, I would help you with that. But in that way, you would be able to communicate with him complex, like you have seen it in the video here, and you would be able to solve your open questions, and I would help you there, of course, free of charge, if you want to do so. And Malcom, you would be happy if that would happen? So if you would show yourself, and you would be happy if some of your family and friends come to Bonn to communicate directly to you, and then you would come to Bonn also at that moment in time to show yourself and to start a complex communication with them. If possible, you would try that. Yes. Make it clear. Yes, he's triggering the wind now. Watch the leaf. Shake it a little bit. Yes. Okay, great. He's saying yes. So that the family and friends that you understand, you invite you to come to Bonn to speak to the creator who have lived as a man, Malcolm X. To speak to Malcolm X. And for appointment, please contact ciembassy.com. I'm Niall Sebastian Power-Sieger, and you can contact me over the website, and then we can find a date and time. We can meet here, and then you will be able to communicate with him if everything works out very well. Of course, he have to be here, he have to come them. I can guarantee I will try to reach him. He said he would come, he would like to come, he would like that take place. So that's the information you have from him. And there can be some problems in between, but often it works, very often. So at the moment, I think that could work out. If you want to come to Bonn, that you then be able to speak to him directly, complex. And please do not lose yourself in any other universal theories or theories about ancestors' communication. Here you have a clear offer to be able to communicate with the creator who have lived as a man, Malcolm X, to communicate with him directly here in Bonn. Understand that easy, that important point, before you lose yourself too quickly in any theories regarding ancestors' communication. Because I'm just saying that because a lot of people lose themselves easy in any theories instead of using their chances. And you have a clear chance to be able to communicate with Malcolm X again, so with the creator who have lived as the man who was known as Malcolm X in the public, and you can bring some questions to identify him best as possible for you, and other questions. So Malcolm, if they would come, you would be able to answer questions, and you would do that so that they can feel comfortable, that they would be able to identify you best as possible, because you do not have a human body like you had in the past today anymore. Is that right? If that's correct, please trigger the wind one time clearly for that, so that your family and friends do understand that. That's correct. He will trigger the wind, and do so, please. He will start now. Use a little bit more wind, please. I explain it to your family and friends after you agreed on the fact. So he's using more wind now. Use more. Use more. They cannot see it on the camera. That's the problem. It's not that I cannot see it. It's the problem that the people cannot see it if it's not enough wind. That's the problem. And now you see that the leaves do start to shake more. He's using more wind. And that's why the plant is also moving a little bit. So for the family and friends, because he do not have a human body, and he can agree on that stuff by triggering the wind during I speak. So if he triggers the wind now to a higher wind level, he's agreeing to what I say. Because he do not have a human body, I always like to give the offer to the family and friends that they can bring identification tests and questions. And questions which he can answer with yes or no, so that you feel best as possible, comfortable, and that you for yourself can identify the creator you are communicating with best as possible. I always do that, or I always try to do that in the videos. It's no matter which creator it is. Regarding Malcolm, I told you he identified himself as the creator who have lived as the man Malcolm X. And beside that, I did communicate with other creators I do know very well. Also, they checked his identification and also told me it is the creator who have lived as the man Malcolm X. So there is a feedback system I'm also using, because it can be sometimes difficult to identify creatures correct. That's what people have to understand. That's a fact in universal communication. But it is possible. It is also possible to test them. It is also possible to ensure by several different methods that you do communicate with one specific individual creature. And in that case, this video was with Malcolm X. Malcolm, do you want to produce a big wind wave to say goodbye for the moment? Because I'm going to produce maybe later some more videos with Malcolm X regarding racism, and maybe another video for his family. Do you want to see you later? That's what he's going to say with the wind wave which is coming now. See you later. Talk to you later. So, and you can see he's triggering the wind clearly for his family and friends. So that's for the family and friends. And he's saying with that wind wave he did produce, see you later and hopefully talk to you later. And hopefully in Bonn, right? So, because you don't, one more question, you do not have an option to reach them in the United States in a way that you could communicate complex with them and that they can understand it in a complex way. Is that correct? Yes or no? Is that correct? Then make that please clear and then I will explain it. That is correct. Okay. So for the family and friends, creatures which have lived as human beings before, yes, he can reach you and touch you or use feelings input with your human biological body. But if humans have not learned to see that, to outread that correct, a complex communication is not possible. And it is not easy to learn that. So it's not your fault. Okay, do not get it wrong, it's not your fault. The most humans are unable to do that. I've learned that in my life and I'm willing to help you there. And what he just agreed to is that it's possible, it would be possible for him to reach your biological human body, for example, to transfer a feeling or to put input into your human brain, but you would be not able to outread that communication and then you would not answer, and that's why a complex communication did not took place maybe in the past. Is that correct the way I explained it? I have to ask you. Was that correct? By body sharing he's saying yes. Then please trigger the wind one more time to make that clear. Trigger the wind a little bit more, use a little bit more wind, that's important so that your family and friends can see and understand that. And now the family and friends see that movement. Can you move it up here a bit more? Yes. Okay, use a little bit more wind because it's a cell phone camera, I repeat that. Very important. Use some more wind. Yes, he's agreeing to that. See? So, and for the family and friends, universal communication is very, very complex. Body sharing is possible and all that. Transfers are possible. All that is correct. But what you do have here is a video with a clear offer that you would be able to communicate with the creator again who have lived as the man Malcom X here in Bonn if you want to try that. Because he would show himself, I would help you to understand it better. The rest is that creatures which have lived as human beings before can reach out for their living family members, can transfer, for example, feelings and knowledge to human bodies. But if the humans have not learned to understand that very well, to outread that very well, a complex communication with them like that is not possible. Only with the very few humans which are able to do so. And that's what I was talking about, but do not lose yourself there. Do understand Malcom can trigger the wind. He can say yes and no in that way, and a complex communication method can be established between you and him here in Bonn. And that's what he communicated to you, and that's what you invited for, to contact ciembassy.com if you want to try that, and if you want to communicate with the creator who have lived as the man Malcom X in the future, in the close future if you want to. And therefore you can reach me, Niall Sebastian Power-Sieger, and I would help you with this. And he, the individual, the creator who have lived as the man Malcom X, would then show himself clearly to you and would communicate with you, and he would be really happy to do so. That's what he communicated by triggering and canalizing the wind. So hopefully your family and friends understood that. And important is do not lose yourself in any other theories or so, because you have an easy, clear offer in this video. Okay? Hopefully they understand it, Malcom, and then you will be able to communicate with them here in Bonn if they come and use their chat. Yes, and the rest I would explain them, because it can be a little bit complex. I would explain them here in Bonn directly, because otherwise you would lose yourself in universal theories, and I do not want that. Thank you very much for watching. You're Niall Sebastian Power-Sieger from ciembassy.com and Malcom X.